Hi, this is just a note to Historic England about the Castle Hill planning in Kirklees, Huddersfield, the ancient heritage site. So, I just went across to the garage and the staff member behind the till told me that he's been reading the newspaper today and they have announced that they haven't yet made the decision yet. The trust, not Natural England, it's Historic England. I know it's Historic England that's dealing with it. So look, there are multiple petitions about Castle Hill, and I've got two petitions that are both petitioning for the same thing, but I've done one on change.org and one on 38 Degrees, which I've submitted, and I hope that have been received, because we've got issues at the moment centred around issues within organisations, councils, government and groups, whereby there may be individuals within those organisations who are preventing information being transferred and heard, or even they might be hacked. The Anonymous channel has put a video recently to demonstrate these models of what is happening and been going on, which is what has led to a lot of the corruption currently in the government. And I'm going to attach that to the petitions, the video in the updates as evidence. The other thing I wanted to note is, since I've been doing my research recently, is that what's proposed on the site is a eating place, a cafe, or for events and functions. Now, I have also been studying in connection with a lot of current affairs and what's actually happening all over the world and country, that we've got a serious problem with diabetes at the moment and other illnesses, and many of these are caused by eating too much. My evidence is from Dr. Sten Ekberg, but there's also evidence from Dr. Berg and other very prominent leading American doctors who are actually legitimate doctors on the correct side, the side for health. And they've given evidence that all these sugars and refined sugars, particularly sugars in products that they sell at many cafes and restaurants, and the modified breads, are actually causing damage to our metabolism. And they're causing cognitive handicap and memory problems and not allowing us to perform at maximum cognitive functioning. It's affecting driving, education, and many other things. Now, the ancient sites are supposed to be a place to go and remember the ancestors and our history. They're not places to go and eat anyway. And Huddersfield has been spoiled by the government and council with lots of money, far more than any other area's money gone into development of cafes and eating places. The football team have been spoiled down by the cinema in Leeds Road, and they've had every eating place you can imagine they have got down there. So there's no reason why the Huddersfield executives for football or the council should need another eating place in Huddersfield. They've got more than any other eating places in any other town have been built, the state-of-the-art ones. So there's just no demand here for it. And the applicant for this planning, the Tandy brothers, they've already cheated and done it's the worst out of all the things they could do wrong with their previous application. They've done the worst that you could do, which is completely and totally cheat and build something that wasn't even planned for or applied for. They demolished a historic building as it was that shouldn't really have been given permission by the council to be demolished. And then they attempted to build a completely different building and bigger to what they planned. So it couldn't be any worse for them. They've completely and totally showed disregard for the site and for the law and the rules. They should not be allowed to proceed on that basis alone. And the fundamental fact that the Tandy brothers, this is, I don't want to get into racism or race, but it is a British heritage site to do with British history and culture. If you go to Egypt or if you go to Africa or South America, out of all the places that any English or British or American person or Australian could go abroad and build a cafe or even a hotel or anything, the last place that we would be given permission to build anything would be on an ancient historic site directly on it for someone else's culture. Namely, for example, actually on the top of the pyramids or in them. Because then they would say that we were racist. Now, there are United Nations laws for protecting ancient and religious sites, and the site is a religious site as well because it's a male phallic shaped site, and it is connected with the Druids, and it is also connected with our area is a very large supply of the psilocybin mushrooms, which we know that they used in the ceremonies when they painted the bodies in different colours, which is recorded by Strabo in his writings and in the Roman writings. Before they even got to Scotland and the Picts were painting the bodies, the Gauls were painting the bodies in the religious ceremonies. And we know that when you use bright colours and paint your bodies, it is in connection with religious sacrament usage. Identical to South America in nearly every way. And they've got the sites in Gaul to prove that. The ancient sites are connected to the religion and spirituality, particularly when they're male and female shaped, because the religious worship is fundamentally grounded in the birth of the human and the soul and the spirit, and where does a human come from? And that is why Uli Longbarrow and other Longbarrows and groves are female shaped, because when you emerge from them, it is exactly like emerging from the woman from the female. And birth is a psychedelic experience in itself. So there's no doubt about it. Whenever we come across Longbarrow phallic shapes or feminine female shapes like Uli Longbarrow, or some of the dolmens, like, for example, Glen Druid, which is in like a crack. It's like a little knobble in a crack, like female genitalia. It is to do with the religious practices. It's not lawful under EU regulations. It's not actually lawful to spoil or build on ancient sites. It's actually a criminal offence. So the council shouldn't have even given permission. Now, at the moment, I've collected 3,000 signatures to protect Castle Hill, and not only Castle Hill, but the entire surrounding area. 3,000 is enough for full council. It's split between both petitions, the change.org one and this one on 38 Degrees, which I've already submitted and I hope has been received, because I've submitted it on multiple occasions through Twitter and in the post. And these things seem to have a habit of going missing or not getting delivered. And it's been submitted to the councillors as well. And Andrew Cooper's already done a petition. My evidence covers the extended area as well and identifies that it's highly likely that and obvious that in Dalton, what we now call Waterloo, is another hill fort religious site. It's a huge mound in the Liberty Cap shape, which is also the exact same dimensions as Liberty Island that was selected for the Statue of Liberty in America. All right, and it all centres around this book from Hobkirk, which features that mound in it, which was called the Warrior's Tomb. Yet, when Varley started excavating the area with Castle Hill, all hell broke loose and the war broke out. And then mysteriously, slowly buildings crept up around the other site and it was hidden and forgotten about. Yet in 1954, when the Liberal Party lost control of the council, Labour built Edgewood Avenue around that site, and it should never have been built on there. So we've already, no archaeology can be done on there because they've obstructed archaeology from there, and they've attempted to lose the site from memory. It's an attack on the site, and I've got strong evidence in the petitions that the letter D shape on there is in the exact same place, significant to the same letter D that is on old maps by Alex Hogg And I believe that it's the royals who don't like the site because of our area's association with Liberal victory from the Civil War, and that's just history that happened. And it was a Liberal area even after then for a long time. And they don't like liberty because liberty is freedom. And this is when you get the Labour Party starts emerging and then taking roots and spreading out after that time. It is clearly obvious that the site was attacked and even called Waterloo after a conflict there when Waterloo didn't exist there. Now, my petition's 3,000 signatures. It's not nothing. 3,000 is a lot of signatures for a local petition. And all of the petitions that are concerning the same matter must be amalgamated together, which I've listed and submitted in the updates and attachments. Everything's attached when you unravel the petition to all the attachments and evidence, deep evidence, extended videos. It's likely the largest case to protect any ancient site that's ever been put together. And altogether, we've got around 9,000 signatures through the amalgamated petitions to protect Castle Hill. In addition to that, if we were to get 15,500, then we could have a local referendum, and local referendums go above the council authority anyway. And it should override historic England if we got a local referendum. Now, I stopped getting signatures when I got 3,000 because we've already got those other amalgamated ones, and that is around 89,000, and that's plenty for a local petition. We shouldn't really have to get the 16,000 for a local referendum. And also, you know, I could have carried on collecting signatures and got more, but I've got other things to do. People have got a life. Now, we've got other problems in this county that I'm having to petition about, and it's not easy. Nick Clegg and Mark Zuckerberg are obstructing Messenger by not allowing us to messenger unlimited people to get the signatures, and out on the groups it is difficult because there are only so many groups and there are all these filters on now, and they're trying to make it hard for us to get petition signatures. This is why Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil and Insulate Britain are doing insane things now, like climbing up onto motorway gantries and spraying buildings with paint, because they said their petitions were being ignored or they weren't hearing them or weren't working. And I believe they've been forced to do those actions. Now, these are petitions I've got working on and started for other things I've got to protect and do in the area. So, and then they've moved the planes over the house. There's the Glenjury Dorman I'm protecting and other things. I can't do it all by myself. Now, Andrew Cooper's been doing petitioning for Castle Hill and other people. They get put off by being messed around. Many people petitioned when the pub was knocked down and wanted it rebuilt, but the stone went missing. The hill is shrapnelled in council corruption and lies and cheating. And I've got a video that shows these models of what's going on within councils and the government and the reasons for it. I'll attach that as well because it's very important evidence. We shouldn't be building cafes on ancient British heritage sites or buildings because there are very few left, particularly right in the centre of the country. In fact, Castle Hill is the only real, true, main ancient site in the entire county, really. Barwick-in-Helmet is miles away, and the ones at Doncaster and Barnsley and Sheffield are not really very well recognised, and there's hardly anything left of those. So the Castle Hill it's not Devon or Wiltshire, where there are numerous ancient sites, and they regard, care and protect about those sites even more closely protected. Yet we've really only got one major site, which is in a beautiful valley and surrounding area with absolute majestic views prominent in the middle. And there are other sites being already built on, spoiled and butchered by the Labour Party in 1954, yet the council are going around and not letting people build houses in places like Mirfield, near the parish church, where they've got village stocks and the ancient Alwick, son of Eric's, Mott and Bailey, from the conquest, from just after the conquest of 1066. These are all protected by Greenbelt. My dad wasn't allowed to build houses in Mirfield, even though next to an old railway line, because it was Greenbelt. Yet, they went and built directly on that mound at Dalton, knowing that it was only within 2.5 kilometres of Castle Hill. It's a very unique Liberty-shaped mound, which is approximately the same size as Old Oswestry Fort, and there's something very unique and special about it symbolically. And we know that if Castle Hill is isolated in distance from the other main hill forts and sites, there aren't many near here, so it wouldn't be lone. It wouldn't be a lonely site, a lone site by itself. It would have a group of sites, because the nearest one is Barwick and Helmet. And we know you get these sites next to each other, because at Worthing, with Shanktonbury Hill and Sisbury Ring Hill Fort, we know they pair them together, and at Battlesbury and Scratchbury. And there's more than a battle going on about this Castle Hill with the council, I can tell you that, and more than a scratch on it. Because in 1066, William the Conqueror and, you know, the De Lacy crew carved it out when they fortified it, spoiled it, and we've had the Warriors Mound at Dalton, which they built houses on top of, which they should never have been allowed. That's been quarried a little bit into the side and marred and spoiled as well. They like spoiling them. Now, it's actually illegal. It is a criminal offence under that United Nations religious protection legislation. It is criminal. It's not just not allowed, it's actually a crime against religion to build on sites that have a religious connection with ancient cultures. And phallic-shaped sites, male and female, are to do with birth and rebirth, and the birth and rebirth experience is intimately connected to the spirituality and the birth of the being, which is not remotely far off from the birth of Christ. Whenever that religion popped up, which was, you know, well, it popped up after the Roman conquest. So, well, it popped up in the form that we know it as. It was legalised because Christianity was illegal at one point. They're trying to erase and wipe out our culture. And the royals do not care for liberal ancient sites, particularly ones that are associated with them being defeated and beaten. Yet they smooth up to us and pretend that they're cared about history and heritage, build Emily Law Mast, but it's all a distraction. They build the Imperial Chemical Industries and write off the ancient river entrance to that valley, and all the river as well, which would have been beautiful. And then they creep up and put the tram station there. Why was that tram station chosen there, and what was the timing for it? Well, it all follows on from Chas Hobkirk's book, which drew attention to the site. The next thing, people coming over on trams and trains to visit it, yet they take a railway past the Mott and Bailey at Mirfield, which distracts from Castle Hill. It distracts attention from Castle Hill and gives attention to that Mott and Bailey at Mirfield. And they build, oh yeah, we like liberals, we like liberty caps, we like liberty and freedom and spirituality. Next thing, they're building a Statue of Liberty in America after Hobkirk's book. We're on an island, is the exact same shape and dimensions, symbolising liberty as our other ancient site, which has been completely ignored. Well, yeah, it's a perfect liberty cap shape. You know, it's actually a despicable attack. It's war. It's actually a continuation of the Norman conquest, which is still being carried out covertly and quietly by the royals through their peerage, and Earl Dartmouth, if he's in trying to build houses now, HS2 and HS3, they are not occupying us and exerting direct military force. They are using their own businesses, and the businesses they own the shares in, BlackRock Vanguard, the Co-op Group, which is now does funerals as well as shops, and they've got what they wanted in Mirfield with an industrial estate when everyone objected to it, yet, the council were pressing for it. There are serious issues here, and the fact that a cafe right in the heart of England on an ancient site by the Thandy brothers, I don't think it's helping interracial relations on a global level to allow people of foreign heritage. I don't have any problem with them, but they're wanting to build a cafe directly on the ancient site that's right in the middle of the country, and there's no others near it. If they were wanting to build an ancient site somewhere near West Kennet or Avebury or anywhere like that, or directly on a henge or Old Sarum Hill Fort or even Old Oswestry, they wouldn't even entertain the idea. And there are more than one site in those areas in the vicinity. We haven't even got any other site, so it's the only one. So why would you put a cafe on it? And it's not even the fact that it's actually allowing them. It's not only allowing them into the country, it's allowing them to actually, you're actually encouraging them to attack our heritage and sort of disrespect it. And then we get called racist. It's the ultimate betrayal. You're actually weaponizing racism. You're inviting foreign people into the country, and then you're inviting them onto the ancient sites, and then you're inviting them to spoil the ancient sites, and then when we try and defend it, then you're saying that we are racist. And another insult to injury is that it's not even helping foreign people, because many Asians now are grossly overweight, eating their ice creams and going to the Barney's ice cream parlours, and they're eating too many curries and putting too much oil in the curries. Huddersfield has got more curry houses than anywhere in England, likely. And they've got every food place they wanted down by the football stadium, all around Huddersfield. The fact is, there's no demand or need for an additional eating establishment in Huddersfield. And what they're selling at these cafes is things like donuts and sugar products and breads with modified starches. And they're actually, Dr. Sten Ekberg and Eric Berg and leading American doctors who care about health are giving evidence. They're giving professional witness evidence that these foods, not only are we eating too much of them, they're actually causing detrimental health problems, not only creating diabetes and progressing it and other diseases, they're actually reducing our cognitive memory and capacity because they cause harm to it. How can you learn at schools as efficiently? How can you go to an ancient site to remember ancestors, yet you're being fed food that is detrimental to your cognitive capacity and memory? So we're actually being attacked. And not only that, critical evidence to our area, what is happening, the university's been expanded. There was Patrick Stewart and then Prince Andrew, who's now been defamed for his exploits, even by ex-security officers of the Royals has been defamed by. And they've built a Borg ship-looking building where Patrick Stewart was the ambassador for the university. And Barry Sheeman MP's building is a Borg cube shape. And now they've got the Incor place in Mirfield they've built and ruined all the fields that people objected against multiple times, right? That Incor place is another insult because the objective of the Borgs in Sir Patrick Stewart's programme that he represents, particularly when he represents the university, when they've done it to shape like a spaceship, is the design of the building is spaceship shaped, is that they assimilate us with tech and then fit them into the core of his brains. So this is a physical manifestation in reality of what obviously they're planning. The big issue at the moment is Elon Musk and his Neuralink tech. We're being attacked, and they've already built on top of one ancient site here and tried to cover it up and hide it, and I've uncovered the evidence and I'm presenting the case for it. So to allow them to build on another one is insanely ridiculous. And I wouldn't mind, but I don't have any problem with foreign people, but they're giving reason to argue with them because they're actually wanting to spoil and ruin rare and very protected ancient sites. They're meant to be grade 1 listing. The grade 1 listing is meant to be there to protect it. But now we're having to actually... you don't need to do petitions to protect Greenbelt because that's what the Greenbelt protects it. You do petitions to protect places that haven't got protection because they're not already protected. But what's happened is they've got used to doing what they want the council. It's almost, why is it called Greenbelt? Why is it called ancient site protection? It's there to protect it. If it ain't protecting it, there's no point having it. So if you have to petition to save an ancient site, what is the ancient site protection there for? It seems to be there just for some... Is it there for comedy value or just like... what is the purpose of it? I can't spend my entire life gathering signatures for this petition because I've got other things to deal with here that are being attacked by the peerage. Earl Dartmouth trying to build around the area, and they're trying to spoil the closest village to Castle Hill, Almondbury Village, which is a vintage period village with a unique TARDIS in it and very old period buildings. Now they're wanting to expand King James School and redo all the streets modern, which has totally ruined the set and setting. And we're trying to stop them doing that. There are sinister and insidious figures within the council. They consist of people who don't really understand and know the heritage, people who have no style and taste, and modernists. And then we've got the whole royal issue, which is this is a Brigantes Celtic site. And it was a liberal stronghold all through the recent history until the 1970s, and the Liberals aren't favoured by Charles. Now, even Jeremy Corbyn, who didn't sing the national anthem, we know how they treat them. Jeremy Corbyn was removed as leader from the Labour Party, and the army were using him as target practice for shooting. This is how the royals jovially regard those who don't swear allegiance. And for sure our area once swearing allegiance when it was taking over the country with Oliver Cromwell. Regardless of that fact, now does that give them the right to demolish every liberal pub and stronghold and the Brigantes Hill Fort just because it symbolises a time and period from before the island was conquered by William the Conqueror? And the ancient religions that it celebrates and we should be learning about actually are a study of a people and a religion and time prior to Christianity. And Christianity went out and wiped out a lot of religions. And it's giving accolade, it's giving prestige, and it's celebrating something that is not actually Charles's own heritage or the heritage of the conquest. It's pre-conquest. So therefore, it is of this island and country, and many of the people are from that heritage, Irish and Scottish descent and Celts, and we have a right under the European religious site protection to protect our sites. It's criminal. It's a criminal offence to attack, damage or spoil an ancient religious site. Now, if English Heritage want to try and prove it's not a religious site, then that's up to them. But I've got strong evidence that it is. And as for the other site down at Dalton, which has been built on top of, I'd like to see their case for it not being an ancient site when they can't get access to the site because it's been built over to cover it up and hide it and obstruct archaeologists. So they'll have a hard time at least proving that it's not an ancient religious site because you can't get access to do any tests or investigation currently. So it's impossible for English Heritage to prove that that is not an ancient religious site. It's impossible at the moment because they've been obstructed from it, so they can't actually disprove it. So therefore, it cannot be disproved. And the fact that it's already been spoiled and ruined anyway is the last thing you want to do is allow building on the other site. It's just insanely ridiculous. Now, I will and can get as many signatures as English Heritage want, as Historic England want. If Historic England want 100,000 signatures, I will get them. If Historic England want 20,000 signatures, I will get them. I'm not far off getting, through amalgamation with the other Castle Hill petitions on the same subject, nearly enough for a referendum anyway. But it shouldn't even need a referendum. 9,000 is enough anyway, and 3,000 should have been enough. I shouldn't have to be putting all this time into it. And, at the end of the day, the popping up other things we've got to defend, it's almost we're being strategically beaten because the council are doing this, they're doing that. We've got to defend the museum now. Then we've got to defend, pubs and buildings that people are spoiling the look of by putting horrible metal gates on. They're demolishing stiles in the woods that are really nice. And then, moving planes around areas that many people are objecting against. Then there's other ancient sites we've got to protect, like Glendruid Dolmen. And then we've got the council highways are ruining streets and things. While, we're meant to be collecting signatures on Castle Hill, where I could get 20,000 signatures in a week if Sir Nick Clegg and Mark Zuckerberg weren't unlawfully abridging Messenger and restricting us to 50 messages a day. Otherwise, we could go into a big group which has got 50,000 people and ask every single person. And I know that 3 to 10% would sign easily without even question, if not more. So, from 50,000 people, I know that that's 10, 20,000 signatures anyway. It just says, what time do you want to put in? I've had to work on these other petitions. And in Wales and in Wiltshire and Cornwall and Scotland, they protect their sites with a lot more care. There are very serious issues, and I'm having to attach evidence. I'm having to attach medical evidence against cafes in general, and an actual, not just the fact that it's been built on an ancient site, it's evidence that the symbolic presence of the cafe on the ancient site by that applicant is promoting the continuation of this attack and insult on our health. There shouldn't be any more cafes really being built anywhere, let alone on an ancient site. We've got medical experts in the field, top global medical professionals are telling us to stay away from sugars and breads in cafes. It's actually affecting us cognitive function and ability. And those sugar refineries are by royal appointment. They're by royal appointment. The sugar refineries, which is even worse, which means that Charles is giving warrants out and rewarding sugar refineries for making products that are cognitively insulting us. It's a cognitive insult, let alone affecting memory to remember his history, if anything even exists. So never mind the medical issues. Then there's the United Nations issues where it's actually illegal to build on it anyway. And then the other site that's been purposely ruined, there's plenty of evidence to show that. There's plenty of evidence to show from the Alex Hogg maps and the John Speed maps where they wouldn't even draw the site in the right place. They even tried to draw a symbol of it over at Hartshead and other places to try and trick people into knowing exactly where it was. It's clearly obvious. I don't know why I record these videos, because I've complained to the council about this noisy grate, and they said that someone went to inspect it and ordered service for it. That was in July. July, August, September, October, November. No one's been to change it. There are some obstructions within the organisation. Now it's either been hacked from a third party outside on the council system, or there are people in the council who just aren't coming to fix it, because they won't, even though it's apparently been listed for service, but they haven't been. So the evidence from the brand new anonymous video, which is showing why we've got issues within organisations like Historic England, like Natural England, like Her Majesty's Government, like Kirklees Council, right? It shows you and explains very clearly why we've got these problems. Why were the Tandys even given permission in the first place when it's grade listed site and greenbelt? Why were the Tandys even allowed to entertain the idea to continue when they built it and broke the rules? How did the building site end up on the other site at Dalton in 1954, following the war, when, you know, that was meant to be protected? Why didn't that get greenbelt protection, but railway lines in Mirfield do? Old railway lines in Mirfield. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're actually being attacked. It is attack. Yet then you've got the American government saying that, calling people extremists, you know, and this and that, when it's actually the royals who are the extremists. Because they are the ones. I don't have an army. I don't have an army or any weapons. I'm unarmed. Right? So how can I be having an army? I'm not Oliver Cromwell. I don't have soldiers. Charles has people listening in on telephones and radios into people's mobile phones. Charles has a military regime. Charles has a police force. Charles has His Majesty's local council. Charles has his entire coastline of England. What do we have? When he's finished with us, we have nothing. It seems to me like he's trying to erase the entire existence and memory of us off the face of the map. Now, you might say, oh, well, what about Uffington White Horse? Well, yeah, with the Smithy, with the horse, with Dragon Hill, with the Hill Fort, that's 4 sites in one area, near Oxford University, big up for Oxford. All the more power to Oxford. Let's celebrate White Horse and draw attention to the White Horse and the Smithy in perfect preservation, multiple sites. That's drawing attention away from us. If the Statue of Liberty isn't drawing attention away from us over in America on Liberty Island. Yeah, where are the Liberty Caps? Oh, yeah, up on our moors. You know, it's just absolutely disgusting that this council would even entertain giving permission to build on an ancient site for the novelty value of a couple of drunkards wanting to go up there for a pint. Because not content with having new pubs built down on Leeds Road by their football stadiums, by their cafes, by their training grounds, all around the Ring Road, in Golka, in Newsham, all over Huddersfield. Indian restaurant, lacks me, right? We're not in demand of Indian restaurants and we're not sure of them. So, everything they've wanted, they've got. That Huddersfield Town Football Club, they got a new stadium. Now, the ancient site is for history. And it's for people of England to come and see. And it's for respect of history, learning about history, and enjoying it. It's not for football. So people going up there to have wedding ceremonies and meals and all that, they want, life is not, they want everywhere. They want a cafe built on the end of the finger if they want to. I'll go to that cafe at the end of my finger. Then I'll go to the cafe at the end of my toe for a change. Then I'll go to the cafe at the end of the road. Then I'll go to the cafe in Galka. Then I'll go to the cafe by the stadium. Where isn't there a cafe now? They just want it there for the sake of it. And the problem is, this sugar culture, this sugar refinery by royal appointment, they have done this regime over the internet where they're getting on websites, they've got tracking cookies, named and labelled cookies, and they're getting everyone to accept cookies. They've got cookies on the brain. Everything is eating name and psychology. They're wanting us all to eat and eat and eat and eat and become obese and diabetic, but they're claiming they don't. And it's actually detrimental to our ability to oppose them. It's not just detrimental to physical athletic prominence, it's detrimental and an insult to cognitive ability, which is your ability to challenge what they're doing, your ability to identify what they're doing, your ability to remember what they've done and calculate why they're doing it. And if they're hiding their real reasons, to call them out on it. Now, this site is protected under United Nations religious site protection, and it is not lawful to build on it. It's also Greenbelt, and it's got the grading listing for it anyway, which is supposed to be protecting it. There are serious critical defects within Kirklees Council anyway, let alone historic England. And the fact is that Andrew Cooper, a professional local politician of the Green Party, has already called out the Kirklees Council and reported it to the government for what he believes in his professional expert opinion is not following council decision meeting proceedings properly, a defect in procedure in those meetings, in the way they're held and the way they proceed and how evidence is given, and the proceedings have been called out and reported. Tandy have broke the rules. It's almost like it's a string of corruption in this council. It's just insanely ridiculous to even entertain the idea. I mean, the fact is they wouldn't even entertain the idea. They wouldn't entertain the idea in Wiltshire. They wouldn't entertain the idea in Wales, because you don't build directly on the ancient site. That is what is protected. Now, the pub, the old pub, they didn't have those regulations at the time back then. We should know better by now. That pub shouldn't really have been demolished. I don't think there should be any buildings on there anyway. There shouldn't be a barrier on there. The police like to block anything that's free. Stonehenge has been obstructed. They don't like the culture of the hippies and freedom. They like to send Wiltshire police in with massive force of officers to Stonehenge for a presence. And all that tunnel hassle is over the same issues. They don't like liberty and freedom. Liberty and freedom symbolises sharing and peace and love, and a need to not have money, just to give each other things and not have any rules. They don't like movements that operate without the need for rules. And they don't like movements that share and give things without money being required. Even though they call charity, charity. Notice that Charles's main businesses are not charity. He supports some charities, Royal Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Birds, but notice that the contracting companies that the government have got, and Charles, the co-op's not a charity. The co-op funeral's not a charity. You have to pay for your funeral. You know? they're not really into charity. They do a few charities, so it looks like they're being charitable, but it's run on sovereign power of money. Now, the Liberals represent freedom and a need to not have any rules, and they represent sharing and goodwill through kindness. Now, they don't like that. They don't like it because it's not regimented, and they like to send the police to Stonehenge at the Free Festival to make a presence. And that's why they built that concrete building. It's not like being inside an ancient chamber. It feels like you're in a prison cell, the design of it. And they ruined that free summer solstice at Stonehenge. And they're encroaching on the Irish sites now under a guise of shopping centres and under a guise of unstoppable 400-home apartment blocks where you have to pay €20 to even make an observation. €20! So you have the right to look at them, to actually look at them and have an opinion, to see what they're up to and doing, and then to even dare to comment on it and speak on it, you have to pay them €20. And that is the secret corporate arm branch of how they're deploying in Ireland. They're not deploying under, becoming part of Britain. They're not deploying under an armed force. They're deploying under the guise of construction corporation, Cairn Homes. And they're getting laws changed through their corporate businesses in Ireland, through lobbying, in order so the local people can't protect their places or even make an observation without paying. And the ancient Irish sites are starting to be attacked. And they're even trying to build dolmens inside shopping centres, so it looks like it's a celebration of more consumerism and more eating. And it's not anything for peace and quiet, to remember the ancestors in a tranquil, natural environment, prehistoric environment at all. There is some insidious corruption coming from this government, and it is those who are opposed to the Liberal Party, and it is those who do not really like the prehistory before the conquests, and they don't like those religions really. Even though we've got experts like Jordan Peterson now and Dennis McKenna giving evidence of those religions, we can't really hardly study them anymore because they've built over the top of them or they're off limits. This is the problem. Now, I have a right to collect enough signatures to get a referendum. I've already got more than enough signatures. Now, if historic England want to wait until I get the 16,000, I can't do 5 or 6 petitions at one time because it's taking they're doing things to try and distract us or deter us from doing this. And then they're trying to, the people who are in favour of it are the people who have already got cafes and things for football everywhere. They're taking over the place. All we want to do is shopping centres and cafes and football stadiums. We've had more money than any other county put into it. And the term being spoiled is an understatement. The religious site protection exists to protect from those less intelligent, those who don't really understand the importance of it, those who don't understand the history. It exists to protect it from people who are, or people